In the small village of Aroko, people lived simple lives. Aroko was a quiet place, filled with green trees and surrounded by tall mountains. It was a place where everyone knew each other, and the people lived like one big family. But the village had a dark secret, a story that parents whispered to their children to keep them in line. It was the story of the money rituals. The people believed that some men could get rich by performing evil rituals. These men would go to a babalawo, a powerful man who spoke with spirits. The babalawo would ask them to do terrible things, like sleep beside the dead or offer something precious. In return, the spirits would give them riches. But these riches always came with a price, for the spirits were greedy and never gave anything for free. One of these men was Kola. Kola was a poor man who lived in the village with his old mother, Mama Iya. Kola was tired of being poor. He wanted more from life. He wanted to live in the city, where there were big cars, tall houses, and bright lights. He would look at his old mother and feel anger rise in his chest. She was sick, and he had to spend all his money on her medicine. He began to see her as a burden. One night, as Kola sat outside his small hut, he met a stranger. The man was tall and dressed in black clothes. His face was hidden under a wide-brimmed hat, and his voice was as cold as ice. "Do you want to be rich?" the man asked Kola. Kola, surprised by the stranger, hesitated, but the desire for riches filled his heart. "Yes, I want to be rich," the stranger smiled. "There is a way, but it will not be easy. You will need to make a great sacrifice." Kola leaned in closer, eager to hear more. "What do I have to do?" The stranger looked at Kola with dark, hollow eyes. "You must sleep with the dead. Not just any dead, but the one who gave you life. Your mother." Kola's heart stopped. His mother? He couldn't do such a thing. But the stranger's words lingered in his mind. If he did this, he would become rich. He could leave the village, go to the city, and live the life he had always wanted. "I can't," Kola whispered. The stranger laughed softly. "You can, and you will. Think about it. When you are ready, I will be waiting." Days passed, but Kola couldn't stop thinking about the stranger's offer. His mother's sickness grew worse. She coughed all night, and her body became weak. Kola couldn't afford her medicine anymore, and the little money he had was running out. One day, while sitting by his mother's side, Kola looked at her wrinkled face and thought about the stranger's words. If he did what the stranger said, his problems would be over. He would never have to worry about money again. Mama Iya saw the sadness in her son's eyes. She reached out and touched his hand. "Kola, my son, don't worry about me. I have lived a long life. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do not let my sickness bring you down." But Kola couldn't help it. He was drowning in his thoughts. He didn't want to hurt his mother, but the promise of riches was too strong. He began to hate the small hut they lived in, the smell of sickness in the air, and the sound of his mother's cough. That night, Kola had a dream. He saw his mother lying on her bed, lifeless, and he saw himself sitting beside her, counting piles of money. The stranger stood in the corner of the room, smiling. When Kola woke up, he was covered in sweat. He knew what he had to do. 1 week later, Mama Iya passed away. Kola felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. The villagers came to mourn with him, offering their condolences and helping him with the burial preparations. But Kola had other plans. Late at night, after everyone had left, Kola went to the stranger. "I am ready," he said, his voice shaking. The stranger nodded and handed him a small bottle filled with a dark liquid. "Drink this before you sleep next to her. It will protect you from the spirits that come for the dead." Kola took the bottle and went home. He sat beside his mother's body, staring at her peaceful face. Tears filled his eyes, but he pushed them away. He couldn't let emotions stop him now. He drank the liquid and lay down beside his mother's cold body. As he closed his eyes, he heard whispers in the darkness. The room grew colder, and the air felt thick with unseen presences. But Kola forced himself to sleep, repeating in his mind the promise of riches. Kola's sleep was restless. He dreamed of dark figures standing around him, their eyes glowing red. They whispered to him in a language he couldn't understand, and their voices sounded like the wind howling through the trees. When he woke up, the sun was shining through the window. His mother's body was still beside him, but something had changed. Kola felt different. He felt lighter, stronger. He stood up and looked at his reflection in the small mirror on the wall. His eyes seemed brighter, and his skin had a strange glow. When he woke up, the sun was shining through the window. His mother's body was still beside him, but something had changed. Kola felt different. He felt lighter, stronger. He stood up and looked at his reflection in the small mirror on the wall. His eyes seemed brighter, and his skin had a strange glow. The stranger's voice echoed in his mind. "You have done well, Kola. Now your riches will come." Kola left the village soon after his mother's burial. With the money he had from selling his mother's belongings, he moved to the city of Lagos. The city was everything he had imagined, loud, bright, and full of opportunities. Kola quickly found a job, and soon his life began to change. He moved into a big apartment, bought new clothes, and started living the life he had always dreamed of. Money seemed to flow into his hands easily. But with the money came strange occurrences. Every night, Kola had nightmares. He saw his mother's face, twisted with pain, calling out to him. He heard her voice in the wind, whispering his name. No matter how much money he made, he couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching him. One day, while walking through the busy streets of Lagos, Kola saw the stranger again. He was standing in the crowd, watching Kola with those same dark, hollow eyes. "Why are you here?" Kola asked, fear creeping into his voice. The stranger smiled. "You are rich now, Kola, but do not forget the price you paid. The spirits will always watch you. They are never satisfied." Kola tried to shake off the stranger's words, but deep down he knew they were true. No matter how much money he had, he couldn't buy peace. As the days turned into weeks, Kola's life in the city became more and more unbearable. Strange things began to happen in his apartment. At night, he would hear footsteps in the hallway, even though he lived alone. The lights would flicker on and off, and sometimes he would wake up to find cold, bony hands touching his skin. One night, Kola woke up to find his mother standing at the foot of his bed. Her skin was pale and her eyes were hollow. She looked at him with a sadness that tore at his heart. "Kola, my son," she whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "Why did you do this to me? Why did you sleep beside my dead body?" Kola tried to speak, but no words came out. His throat felt tight and his heart raced with fear. His mother's ghost moved closer, her cold breath brushing against his skin. "The spirits will never leave you, Kola," she said. "They will take everything from you, just as you took everything from me." With those words, Mama Iya's ghost vanished, leaving Kola trembling in his bed. He knew now that the price he had paid for riches was too high. The spirits were angry, and they would never let him live in peace. As time went on, Kola's life began to fall apart. The money he had once enjoyed seemed to disappear as quickly as it had come. He lost his job, his friends abandoned him, and his health began to deteriorate. The spirits haunted him day and night, and he could find no escape from their torment. Desperate for help, Kola returned to the village of Aroko. He sought out the asterisk Babalawo asterisk, hoping that the old man could lift the curse that had been placed on him. But the asterisk Babalawo asterisk only shook his head. "The spirits are angry, Kola," he said. "You cannot undo what you have done. The only way to appease them is to give them what they want." Kola's heart sank. "What do they want?" The Babalawo looked at him with pity. "They want your life, Kola." Kola's heart pounded as he heard the asterisk Babalawo's asterisk words. "They want my life," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. The Babalawo nodded solemnly. "The spirits are never satisfied with just riches. They are greedy and unforgiving. You took something precious from them, and now they want something equally precious in return." Kola felt his world crumble. He had sacrificed everything for money, only to find himself trapped in a nightmare. He couldn't run, and he couldn't hide. The spirits would follow him wherever he went. "Is there no other way?" Kola asked, his voice filled with desperation. The Babalawo looked at him for a long moment before speaking again. There is one other way, but it is dangerous. You must return to the place where your mother was buried and perform a ritual to appease the spirits. It will not be easy, and if you fail, the spirits will take your life." Kola felt a flicker of hope. If there was even a small chance that he could escape this curse, he had to try. "What do I need to do?" he asked. The Babalawo handed him a small bag filled with herbs, bones, and other strange objects. "Take this to your mother's grave. When the moon is full, light a fire and burn these offerings. Then speak to the spirits. Tell them that you are sorry for what you have done. If they are merciful, they may spare your life." Kola took the bag with trembling hands. "And if they are not merciful?" he asked. The Babalawo looked at him with sad eyes. "Then you will join your mother in the spirit world." Kola returned to his village, where the memories of his mother weighed heavily on him. The village of Aroko seemed different now. The once warm and welcoming village felt cold and uninviting. Even the villagers seemed to sense something was wrong, and they avoided Kola, whispering behind his back. Kola made his way to the place where his mother was buried. Her grave was in a quiet part of the village, under the shade of a large tree. As he stood there, he felt the weight of his guilt pressing down on him. "I'm sorry, Mama," he whispered as he knelt beside the grave. "I never meant to hurt you." The sun began to set, and the sky turned a deep shade of purple. The full moon rose slowly in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the village. Kola knew it was time. He took out the bag the Babalawo had given him and began to set up the ritual. He placed the herbs and bones in a small circle around the grave and lit a fire in the center. The flames flickered and danced in the night, casting long shadows across the ground. Kola closed his eyes and began to speak to the spirits. "I come to you with a heart full of regret. I know I have wronged you, and I ask for your mercy. Please, spare my life and let me make amends for what I have done." For a moment, there was silence. Then a cold wind swept through the trees, and Kola felt a presence around him. The spirits had arrived. The air grew thick with an unseen force, and Kola could feel the spirits circling around him. Their whispers filled the night, sounding like the rustling of leaves and the creaking of old wood. Kola kept his eyes closed, afraid of what he might see if he looked. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, and a deep voice echoed in the darkness. "Kola, son of Iya, you have called upon us, you have taken from us, and now you seek our forgiveness." Kola's heart pounded in his chest. "Yes, I am sorry for what I have done. Please forgive me." The voice seemed to consider his words. "You have been greedy, Kola. You have taken what was not yours to take. But we are not without mercy. We will give you a choice." Kola opened his eyes slowly, but the night was so dark that he could barely see anything. "What choice?" he asked, his voice trembling. The voice spoke again, this time softer but still filled with power. "You can keep your life, but in return, you must give up all the riches you have gained. You will return to the village, poor as you were before, and you will live a humble life, never seeking wealth again." Kola felt a rush of relief. If that was the price, he was willing to pay it. "I accept," he said quickly, but the voice continued. "Or you can keep your riches, but you will be haunted by us for the rest of your days. You will never know peace. And when your time comes, we will take you to the spirit world, where you will serve us for eternity." Kola's heart sank. He realized now that there was no easy way out. If he chose to keep his life, he would be poor and broken, but free. If he chose to keep his riches, he would live in fear until the day the spirits came for him. The choice was his to make. Kola stood at his mother's grave, staring into the flickering flames. His mind raced as he considered the spirit's offer. Could he really give up all the wealth he had gained? Could he return to the village, poor and alone? The thought of living a simple, humble life was hard to accept, but the thought of being haunted by spirits for the rest of his life terrified him even more. Kola fell to his knees and wept. "I give up the riches," he whispered. "I will live a simple life. Please, let me be free." The wind picked up, and the fire suddenly blazed higher. The spirit's presence seemed to grow stronger for a moment, and then, just as quickly, it faded away. The air became still, and the night grew quiet once more. Kola wiped his tears and looked around. The spirits were gone. He had made his choice, and they had accepted it. Kola returned to the village of Aroko, where he resumed his old life. The money he had gained from the ritual disappeared, as if by magic. He sold his apartment in the city and returned to the small hut he had once shared with his mother. The villagers watched him with curiosity, but no one dared to ask what had happened. Kola lived quietly, tending to the fields and helping his neighbors when he could. He no longer dreamed of riches or a life in the city. Instead, he found peace in the simple things: a warm meal, the sound of birds in the trees, and the laughter of children playing in the village square. But even though Kola had chosen the path of humility, he could never forget what he had done. His mother's face still haunted his dreams, and the memory of the spirit's whispers lingered in his mind. He knew that he had been given a second chance, but he also knew that he would never truly be free of the guilt that weighed on his heart. In time, Kola grew old, and the villagers came to respect him as a wise and humble man. They never knew the full story of what he had done, but they could see the change in him. Kola spent his final years in peace, living quietly in the village he had once wanted to escape. And when the time came for him to join his mother in the spirit world, Kola went with a heart full of acceptance. He had learned that some things are more important than wealth, and that the true riches of life are found in the love and kindness we give to others. The spirits took him gently, and for the first time in many years, Kola felt at peace. The story of Kola and the money ritual became a tale that the elders of Aroko would tell to the younger generation. It was a warning, a lesson about greed and the dangers of seeking riches at any cost. The village of Aroko continued to live in peace, and the people learned to be content with what they had. They knew that the spirits were always watching, and that the choices they made could have consequences that reached far beyond this world. And so, the story of Kola, who once slept beside his mother's dead body for the promise of wealth, became a tale of caution, a reminder that the price of greed is often more than one is willing to pay.